Sorry.
And I sacrificed a lot of myself to come out successful on the other side.
We never thought we'd see the day Kevin Hunter would be spotted in public looking like this, broke, bloated, and begging for the woman he once called replaceable. The same man who strutted around daytime TV like a self-made king is now reportedly crashing on couches, whispering apologies to anyone who'll pick up the phone, and trying to claw his way back into Wendy Williams' life as if the last decade of betrayal never happened. You'd almost feel sorry for him if it weren't so poetic. The ex who torched her empire with a side romance and secret baby, now reduced to a walking cautionary tale. It's not a rumor, it's a reversal, and watching it unfold in real time feels like karma pulling up a chair.
I mean, I take accountability for my actions, for what's obviously out there.
What's wild is how fast the roles flipped. He spent years talking about loyalty, building an empire, calling himself the protector, while funneling her money into an entirely separate life with Shireena Hudson, the side girl who cashed in on Wendy's grind. He bought her a house, paid for her luxury lifestyle, and had the nerve to act offended when the world found out. Remember that? Wendy was collapsing on live television, fainting in her Statue of Liberty costume, while Kevin was out shopping for baby strollers. The arrogance was Olympic level. And now, after the affairs, the secret child, the lawsuits, and the lifetime of manipulation, he's out here begging, literally begging, for another chance. People close to the family say Kevin's been reaching out, trying to use their son as a middleman, claiming he's changed, that he still loves Wendy, that she needs someone who understands her. The timing couldn't be more suspicious. Because right now, Wendy's back in headlines, sharper, glamorous again, pushing against the guardianship that's kept her trapped for years. She's got her name trending and public sympathy flooding in.
With the hudson, I've always spoke to her, and she's always wanted me to spend her money.
Meanwhile, Kevin's bank account looks like an abandoned studio set, empty, echoing, and overdue for demolition. It's not love letters he's sending, it's survival tactics. He's telling anyone who will listen that Wendy's guardianship is a fraudulent bondage, that he's fighting for her freedom in court, that the system is broken. Sure, the system's broken, but so was their marriage, and he broke that himself. When he filed that lawsuit demanding $250 million in damages to be shared between him and Wendy, even the judge had to side-eye that one. Shared with his ex-wife, the same woman he emotionally shredded on a public stage? It sounded less like activism and more like a cash grab disguised as concern, and we all know Kevin loves disguises. He lived behind one for 15 years. Here's what makes the whole thing sting. While Wendy's fighting for her independence from a system that literally locked her inside an assisted living facility, Kevin's pretending to be her savior. He's painting himself as the man on the outside trying to break her free. But insiders say it's not about freedom, it's about finances. His luxury Florida home is in trouble. He owes homeowners association fees, credit card bills, and apparently even pawned off a six-figure car. The man who once wore fur coats through studio halls is now drowning in collection notices. The empire he built on Wendy's back is dust, and the woman he cheated with? Rumor is she's gone too. Shireena Hudson quietly slipped out of the picture, taking her vegan recipes and their little family dream with her. Kevin's left talking to himself and filing lawsuits no one's taking seriously. Meanwhile, Wendy, even under the tightest control of a guardian who limits her phone calls, is doing what she's always done best, performing.
I'm going to be doing such fun things on my new TV show.
Okay.
And I'm going to have, I don't want to just write it because it will get off, you know what I'm saying? So I've like a paint thing. Yeah, it's to paint. Okay.
This fall, she turned up at Laquan Smith's show at Fashion Week, dressed like she never left the game. Long lashes, cropped fur, flawless makeup. The same people who once whispered she was gone were shouting her name from the runway. It felt like a resurrection. The tabloids called it a comeback moment. We call it karmic theater. Because while Wendy was waving to fans and sitting front row, Kevin was somewhere in Florida trying to explain to a judge why he couldn't afford his car insurance. The man who used to control her every move now can't even control his own credit score. And yes, we've seen the photos. Wendy out at dinner, smiling at cameras, her team making sure the world knows she's still sharp. She's talking again, pushing back on that cognitively impaired label, calling her guardianship a disgusting situation. She even told the Breakfast Club that the people around her are holding her hostage. And while she's publicly demanding freedom, Kevin suddenly resurfaced with concern. Concern that just happens to come with dollar signs. We can't help but wonder, is this about reconciliation, or is he trying to crawl back into relevance? Because when Wendy was down, Kevin was living it up. When she was fighting health problems, he was playing family man with his mistress. But now that she's clawing her way back into the spotlight, he wants back in the picture. The irony is brutal. Wendy's guardianship costs over $25,000 a month, money coming from her own estate, managed by a system she despises. Kevin's out here begging for alimony he'll never see again.
An inordinate amount of people that took advantage of my absence you know, and her vulnerability at the time.
The court already told him what we were all thinking. Her money is no longer his problem. That decision hit him like a door slammed shut in his face. He called it unfair. Fans called it karma. You betray someone for over a decade and then expected them to fund your downfall? Even Wendy, locked away and guarded, couldn't have scripted a better punchline. And let's not forget, this is the same Kevin who used to treat Wendy's staff like servants. The man strutted around the studio with a bottle in his hand, acting like his name was on the marquee. Producers used to whisper about how terrified people were to cross him. He had the nerve to show up in a fur coat to her set while she was barely holding it together on air. That was his peak, and it was built entirely on her brand. Now the brand is gone, and so is the power. Watching him try to rewrite the narrative, pretending to be the wounded ex-husband, is like watching a magician perform a trick we've already seen. But it's Wendy's son, Kevin Jr., who's been the quiet truth-teller in all this. He's seen both parents fall apart in very different ways. First, his father's double life, then his mother's collapse under the weight of betrayal, substance struggles, and a public system that stripped her autonomy. Insiders say Kevin Jr. has no patience for his father's pity act. When reports came out that the elder Kevin was broke, his son allegedly rolled his eyes and said what most of us were thinking. Maybe try working for once. The younger Kevin's been keeping a low profile, focusing on building his own life, but even he couldn't stay silent when his father started spinning the narrative like he's the victim. Every time Kevin Hunter's name shows up in a new headline, another lawsuit, another unpaid bill, another exclusive about how he wants Wendy back, it feels like deja vu. He's trying to convince the world he's the only one who can save her, while she's proving she doesn't need saving. Her voice might shake, her body might falter, but her fire is unmistakable. Even in that facility, she's plotting, stitching her own clothes, telling people she's coming back.
I feel like the Guardian has not done a good job at protecting my mom. As long as she has people around who are yes people, I know that she's not getting the help that she needs or getting better.
When she called her living situation a dump and complained about being surrounded by old people, we didn't hear confusion. We heard the old Wendy, blunt and biting as ever. She's still got that spark. Now, picture this contrast. Kevin, sitting in his half-empty house, watching clips of Wendy at Fashion Week, her hair perfect, her laughter loud, her face back in the tabloids for all the right reasons. He must feel it, that sting of being forgotten. Because once upon a time, every headline about her included his name. Now, she's reclaiming her narrative and he's clinging to court documents. He used to be her shadow. Now he's just the punchline. We heard whispers that Kevin's been calling old industry contacts, trying to pitch some kind of truth-telling project, a memoir, maybe even a podcast. But no one's buying. Literally, no one. The industry that once treated him like a gatekeeper now sees him as a liability. He had his empire, his side life, his second family, and he blew it all. When the checks stopped coming, the loyalty vanished. Even Shireena, the woman who supposedly left Wendy's world behind to build her own brand, seems to have vanished from his orbit. Her social media has gone quiet. The love story that broke Wendy's heart turned into another unpaid bill on his desk. And yet, Kevin's still performing. He's been spotted around Florida, trying to look composed, talking about family healing, claiming he just wants to do right by Wendy.
It happened, you know, the banks froze everything up. Yeah. He was not in a position to pay $10,000 a month for an apartment.
But the sincerity cracks every time he opens his mouth. He's the man who sold the story of stability while living a double life. Now he's trying to sell remorse, but the audience already knows how the movie ends. We've seen this act before, and this time there's no one left to believe it. Meanwhile, Wendy's slowly winning something far bigger than ratings: public empathy. Her story has shifted from gossip fodder to cautionary tale, and in that transformation, she's getting her power back. Even with court-imposed walls around her, she's commanding attention again. Fashion Week was just the beginning. The whispers say she's working with new legal allies, ready to challenge the guardianship in court. And if there's one thing Wendy knows, it's how to make a comeback look good. So, when Kevin calls around claiming he wants to reunite the family, we have to ask, which family? The one he abandoned for a luxury life that evaporated the second the money dried up? Or the one Wendy built on grit and gossip? The one he tried to control but could never really understand?
I want to let people know that we still only human.
Because the truth is, Wendy doesn't need him anymore. She's got the world watching, rooting, waiting for her next move. He's got debt collectors. And as he scrambles to stay relevant, every apology he whispers sounds less like regret and more like strategy. The story isn't over. Far from it. There's talk that Kevin's next move could get even messier, that his desperation is pushing him towards something drastic. Maybe a tell-all, maybe another lawsuit, maybe a public stunt to drag Wendy back into his orbit. Whatever it is, it's coming. And if we've learned anything from watching this saga unfold, it's that Kevin Hunter doesn't know how to disappear quietly. But this time, Wendy might be the one holding the mic. It's starting to look like Kevin's sudden change of heart isn't about regret at all. It's about timing. The moment Wendy stepped back into public view, gleaming under runway lights and taking back her narrative, Kevin's apology tour began. Not a coincidence. Not a coincidence at all. Insiders whisper that he's been watching her resurgence from afar, calculating every move, waiting for a moment to reattach himself to the empire he once controlled. To the public, he's weeping over lost love. But behind the scenes, people close to the situation claim he's eyeing her bank accounts and guardianship battles like a man searching for a loophole. When Wendy's attorney started making noise about her possibly regaining control of her finances, Kevin's tone shifted overnight. 1 week, he was quiet. The next, he was fighting for her freedom. Convenient, isn't it? We've seen this pattern before. Every time Wendy starts to rise, Kevin appears out of the shadows, playing the misunderstood ex. But this time, there's something colder in the air. Friends of Wendy's family have reportedly said he's been floating around in New York again, talking about how they were stronger together and that no one knows her better. Maybe so, but no one hurt her worse either. He knows the story better than anyone, the financial guardianship, the medical reports, the confusion about her condition. And if those rumors are true, he's now trying to use that same knowledge to inch his way back into her orbit, disguised as a savior.
I was fired because I got...
What really set people off was the lawsuit. $250 million in supposed damages to be shared between him and Wendy. The words leapt off the page. Shared with the woman he betrayed? The same woman whose show he once ruled like a personal kingdom, now reduced to a legal bargaining chip? The audacity was almost breathtaking. Fans immediately caught on, flooding comment sections with disbelief. Some called it delusional, others labeled it strategy. But one detail cut through the noise. Kevin filed that lawsuit right as Wendy's team was rumored to be preparing a fresh appeal to loosen her guardianship. He didn't just want money, he wanted leverage. And here's where it gets more twisted. The closer Wendy gets to independence, the louder Kevin gets about protecting her. He's been making calls, dropping hints that he's the only one who truly understands her needs, the only one she can trust. But her son isn't buying it. Kevin Jr., now carving his own quiet path in Florida, has allegedly warned his mother's circle not to let his father back in. He's seen the manipulation up close. When he was younger, he watched his parents' marriage unravel under the weight of secrets. Now he's watching his father try to resurrect those same dynamics under the guise of concern. To him, this isn't reconciliation, it's a rerun. People around Wendy say she's fragile but clear, that even in her most uncertain moments, she still recognizes manipulation when she sees it.
He was with me, begging forgiveness, telling me to take a moment, and he would see it, and we were meant to be together.
He's only around when he wants something, one friend told a reporter months ago, echoing what half of social media has already guessed. Kevin's timing, his tone, even the legal language of his filings, everything reads like a man trying to squeeze one last drop from a brand he didn't build but gladly spent. The lawsuit, the interviews, the talk about freeing Wendy, all of it keeps his name attached to hers, and that may be the point. Meanwhile, Wendy's world remains a chessboard of lawyers, doctors, and opportunists. The guardianship that started as protection has turned into a battleground. We've got lawyers billing hundreds of dollars an hour, a guardian accused of overreach, and family members locked out for months at a time. And now, into that chaos, Kevin reappears, broke, isolated, but suddenly full of purpose. Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe it's the same old playbook. Find the weakest moment, step in, and play the hero. Only this time, the cameras are already rolling and the audience knows the twist before the act begins. There's also the question of Shireena Hudson. Remember her? The long-term affair, the supposed new life, the baby, the house in Florida. For years, she was the reason Wendy's world imploded. Now, Shireena's gone quiet. Her social media wiped, her cooking brand fading, her connection to Kevin reduced to speculation. Insiders in Florida whispered that she's moved out, leaving him with a mortgage he can barely afford, and a neighborhood lawsuit over unpaid fees. Even the fancy cars he once flaunted are gone, allegedly sold or repossessed. He went from the man who had it all to the man who can't keep the lights on, and as Shireena vanished, Kevin's interest in his ex-wife suddenly reawakened. We can't say it's cause and effect, but the timing speaks louder than any confession. Through it all, Wendy's still fighting, not just for her money, but for her identity.
Put a vocal rendition of my birthday. Happy birthday. I appreciate it.
Her publicist insists she's sharper than people think. She's calling into radio shows again, showing up at fashion events, even cracking jokes about her situation. When she told The Breakfast Club, "These people are holding me hostage," it didn't sound like confusion. It sounded like defiance. And right on cue, Kevin framed himself as her champion. "She's being exploited," he says. But people notice how his concern flares up exactly when there's attention, when headlines promise relevance. It's the oldest tabloid dance. Play the protector, hide the agenda. Even the legal community's buzzing. A celebrity attorney, the same one defending high-profile cases, has been claiming Wendy's guardianship is unjust. Kevin's been using that talking point in his own filings, trying to align himself with the narrative of liberation. The word freedom has become his new brand, and the irony couldn't be sharper. For 2 decades, Wendy's fans watched her trapped in a marriage that looked more like control than love. Now, as she struggles for literal freedom, Kevin's rebranding himself as the liberator. It's almost cinematic, if it weren't so transparent. The tension between father and son could blow next. Kevin Jr. has stayed quiet, but there's frustration simmering.
As long as she has people around who are yes people, the same thing is always going to occur where she would ultimately just find any excuse to be by herself so she can get back to drinking.
Sources say he feels like he's watching history repeat itself, that every time his mother makes progress, someone, usually his father, steps in to complicate it. He's reportedly cut contact, focusing on his own stability, but still checks in through Wendy's circle. And yes, he's said it before, I just want her safe. But in this saga, safety is currency. Everyone claims to be protecting Wendy, but only one person benefits every time her chaos hits the headlines: Kevin Hunter. Behind closed doors, people in Wendy's orbit say the stakes are getting higher. There's talk that her guardian might be replaced, that a new evaluation could change everything. That means her estate could open up. Money, properties, assets, all the things Kevin no longer has. Is it too cynical to suspect he's positioning himself early? Maybe. But after 20 years of watching this man move, we've learned nothing he does is accidental. Every apology, every press statement, every lawsuit seems choreographed for maximum advantage. He's not begging for forgiveness, he's auditioning for relevance. And if that's true, then the next chapter won't be about love or closure. It'll be about power. Because Wendy's story, at its core, has always been about who controls her. First her husband, then her producers, now her guardian. And somewhere in that tug of war, Kevin's trying to sneak back onto the stage. The tragedy is that he knows her patterns, her emotions, her weak spots, and he's not above using them. Whether Wendy sees it coming this time, we don't know. But the whispers are growing louder, and even her most loyal fans are asking if the battle for her freedom is really about freeing her, or freeing her money. So now we're left with one uneasy question. Is Kevin Hunter's apology a man's final attempt to make peace, or the setup for his biggest scheme yet? Because if history's any guide, this story doesn't end with forgiveness. It ends with another twist. We'll be watching, because in the world of Wendy and Kevin, every reunion hides a motive, and every silence means someone's plotting the next move. What do you think? Is Kevin truly sorry, or is this just his latest performance? Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, in this business, the truth always costs more than the headline.